Hi, everybody. Coach Anna here, and I'm here with Pablo Kelly. I met him on Twitter, and I just saw a little bit about his story, and then I started looking at more of his story, and I thought I just have to help him share his story because you know me, I'm a sucker for hope. I'm a sucker for resiliency. I'm a sucker for people who don't take shit lying down, and this man is definitely qualified. So why don't you just go ahead and share away what happened and
Okay, yeah. Well, 2014, to be honest, I should probably explain where I came from to explain how I gained the resolve to be who I am. So I was like, I was addicted to smoking and taking drugs and being drunk and partying. I never achieved much in my life because I was always doing these, like getting high and just saying, well, I don't want to do it. I'd rather get high. um, But one day I decided I was depressed and that cannabis was not my crutch anymore. I just like substituted that with trying to be healthy and loving myself again. And then I got to the point where I was like, yeah, maybe if I love myself, I can actually do something in my life. So I went ahead and I tried to do a photography course. So I spent like 6 years studying photography, but never got a degree. So I ended up actually meeting my now fiance, who's going to have my second child through that photography course. We actually quit the course, so I still don't have a degree. um, but yeah, we started to do things we loved, like we were picking vegetables for an organic vegetable company. And then after that, when the work ended, we started to get different jobs. So I started working in a garden center. And this is where I actually experienced the first symptom. It was like mid-June 2014, and I was like just watering the plants, stocking shelves, and I had like a click in my neck. So like, I felt some discomfort. I clicked my neck, and then everything started to spin, and like it wouldn't stop. I was standing like still, and everything span around, and I was just freaking out. And then I started to experience headaches from that point onwards. I was like getting migraines, but I was like, I've got to work, I've got to earn my money. There was another occurrence about 2 weeks later where I was meeting my partner. She was going to pick me up, so I met her down the road. I had to run away to get out of the way of traffic, and then I had the same experience. I clicked my neck, and I thought I was having a stroke. So I had my first seizure, which was like a drooping, or like this. My arm drooped, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm having a stroke. I've got to get a scan or something." So then I saw my doctor, and they actually said it sounds like a migraine aura. So it's just an aura of a migraine, which can occur in different ways. But I said I want a CT scan anyway because I'm worried. So I had the CT scan, and they didn't actually diagnose it then and there. It took 5 hours to get the results, and then they just said, "Yeah, it sounds like a migraine aura." So I went home again, started going back to work, and then got a call 2 weeks later. I think, well, it's actually a week later from the neuro. I forgot his name. Basically, a neuro guy. And he said, "We want you to come back in. We've discussed it with the team, and we think you might have a tumor or a growth or a mass in your brain." So I went for MRIs, and I was diagnosed within 2 weeks with a glioblastoma multiforme grade 4. So it's like the deadliest tumor that we know of. And I had the biopsy within another week of that, or 2 weeks. They diagnosed me with a glioblastoma multiforme. It was inoperable, which meant there was no way to debulk it at all. It was about 5-6 centimeters, so it's actually already quite big in my brain. So I ended up going to a meeting. I thought, I got a letter through the door to say go for a meeting to discuss options, and I was actually a radiotherapy mask fitting session, and I had a big beard, and they ended up saying you're supposed to come clean shaven. So they hacked my beard for about 45 minutes. And then I should probably say that before this, I had done hours and hours of research up to 4 a.m., 5 a.m. every night. Just getting, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And there was lots of evidence pointing towards a ketogenic way of eating to reduce seizures in children. And I was all like, okay, it's anti-inflammatory, so that's a good thing. And part of my background is that I was brought up on homeopathy, healthy living, kind of that. These ideologies, spiritual ideologies based on multiple religions. So I was already kind of aware of what there were that were alternatives to natural modern medicine. So basically, I went to that meeting. They hacked at my face. I was already feeling discomfort. I was like, I wanted to talk to the oncologist. I didn't agree to this, but I went along with it because I was like, I had the hospital and I didn't want to waste time. I was like trying to please them. So I got there. They put the mask on, molded it to my face, and then they put me on the bed to measure me up for the radiotherapy sessions. And my gut instinct, I felt sick to my core, and I just said, I would like to speak to my oncologist. Can you call her up? And I spoke to her on the phone. And basically, the pertinent question was to say, how long is this treatment going to give me? Chemotherapy, radiotherapy, how long is this going to give me? Because I want quality of life. I want to live a long time. I don't want to die. She said, well, studies suggest, and like from experience, that most people survive 12 to 15 months. Some people a lot longer, but it depends how the drugs or the radiotherapy takes. And I said, so, okay, and if I wasn't to do this, if I was to do a ketogenic diet, how long would I live? She said 6 to 9 months. And for me, the quality of life was the major factor. She said you would probably have to bank your sperm. You may become impotent. And I was like, well, that sounds wrong. I don't want to do that because I want to have babies. I want to do it naturally, and I want to. So I want to actually have a future. And I said, well, this isn't what I want. I want a quality of life over quantity of life. And if I'm going to die, I'm going to die feeling good about my life and what I've chosen to do. I'm not going to die suffering because of this treatment. She thoroughly disagreed. She said that the ketogenic diet is not, there's no efficacy. It's not been studied on. I can't tell you from my honest opinion it's going to work. But I just think what I said was, I'll take my chances. And then so I started straight away. There's people called, I don't know if you've heard of Patricia Daly.
No, I haven't.
She's written a book called The Ketogenic Kitchen with her friend in Ireland. Originally, though, she had a type of cancer or a hemorrhage or some form of cancer behind her eye, which she actually treated with a ketogenic diet. So she was doing this before me. And I had some good conversations with her, and she helped me create a meal plan for myself. So I got on a restricted calorie ketogenic diet of less than 20 grams of carbs a day. And I was measuring my food, measuring my ketones and glucose. I've got like loads of data going back to 2014. I was hitting that 1-to-1 ratio that Professor Thomas Seyfried suggests the press pulse management of cancer. So I was doing that. I was doing really well. And I was holding the cancer at bay. So I was I got my first stable scan within 4 months or 3 months of the diagnosis. And I was like, this is great. 4 months in, and I was told I could die within 6 to 9 months. And to treat an inoperable tumor is my only option. And I continued to get stable scans for about, I think it was about 3 years. I was still experiencing epilepsy. So I was having quite a lot of grand mal tonic-clonic seizures. I think there was one point at the beginning where I didn't actually have any seizures, but I was on Keppra and managing the diet quite well. But I think as the tumor grew gradually over that period of time, it caused more friction in the brain, I guess. So I was just, I was kind of suffering a little bit because at one point it was just happening every evening. I'd go to bed, have a tonic-clonic, and then be out of it the next day and not be able to get on with my life. But fortunately, it got to the point where the tumor changed shape because of my management of it. Oh, yeah, I've got to say that I was also using supplements for the first 3 years, 3.5, 4 years. So I used a company called Nutritional Solutions in, I think it's North America somewhere. But basically, I'd send them blood work that suggest supplements to reduce inflammation, collect copper and iron. I had this scan, and then the surgical team had a look at my scans again and said, well, the tumor has changed shape, so we can now actually perform an operation. So your inoperable tumor has become operable because of the amount of time you managed to live with it. I believe that if I was to have done chemotherapy and radiotherapy, these toxic treatments that cause more problems than do good. I say this, but people out there will go, chemotherapy and radiotherapy are your only option. And they won't even look at diet. And I see many people do this, and then they end up dying because of their treatment or the treatment. It's very sad to see because, if they were to maximize the efficacy of the treatments, they would do something that's anti-inflammatory, cut out all toxic elements in life and treat their body as a temple, which, it should be. We just let it go because we don't care anymore. It's quite sad to see. So I had the operation and it was an awakening to me I think it was March 2017. The surgery, it was a 7-hour operation. They put me to sleep. I wake up and I was pinned to the table. I was put to sleep and then suddenly I'm awake again, going, okay, I can't move. Started to cry. But there's a neuropsychologist who sits beside you. He's like there to support you for the whole thing. Because it's such a weird sensation. I had lots of I had to do lots of motor function tests, brain tests to make sure when they do the incision, they're not cutting anything important. Anyway, I came out of that, and on Professor Seafried's suggestion, I took the smallest dose of steroids I could possibly, they would allow me to, which was like 7 days. And I was strict keto up to and after. So when I was lying in the hospital in recovery, there was no foods that they could give me that I wanted to eat. My partner was like, why don't we just get some, I said to her, there's boiled eggs, and I was like, I can't really open my mouth. I was like, so I said, get some butter and mash it up with the egg. So that I'm getting the fat and the egg and the protein. And I just ate bowls of buttery eggs for every day. And I was out of the hospital within 7 days.
That's amazing. Absolutely
and
amazing.
I was active as well. They said they've never seen anyone after a big surgery like that be up and out of bed within the second day. I was moving around. I was like, I can do that. It's fine. A little bit weak. My left side was very weak. I just kind of forced myself to relearn how to move.
Well, the instinct for survival is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
And congratulations first and foremost, on changing everything and taking back your temple. I think the world takes our temple away from us, because you mentioned addiction prior to speaking, and I'm 32 years clean off of drugs and alcohol, so I get that, and I really feel like we're put into this world that the consumer
makes it all okay.
We need more, different, better. We need that dopamine hit and that fix, and then when we stand to lose everything, something clicks, and it's amazing how an addict can make up their mind to just pivot. And once that mind is made up, I'm pivoting. I want to live. I want to live my life differently. I'm sure life has a lot more meaning for you today than it used to have. Do you feel like you live your life say with more intention? Do you get up and I'm not going to waste today?
I'm being present with my moments. So every moment is actually acceptance. It's about accepting the next moment. Even if it's one way you're angry, you can understand that it's just anger and it's pointless. It has no point. It has no impact on your life. So let it go. That's every step of this cancer experience for me has been another kick up the arse to say. So basically, it's I thought it was inoperable, and I was like, I've got to do something to change that. I can do something myself, and I've got to try. I didn't even consult my family when I made that decision. I just said to the oncologist, I'm going to try it by myself. See you later. And then I told everyone, and they were a little bit shocked. But my mum was very happy that I made a choice for myself, and it's actually worked out. So they removed, after the surgery, they only removed 84%, or roughly around that much. The rest dissolved over time, so the last percentages just disappeared. So I had no visible scan up until September 2018. So I had about a year of relative peace, a year and a half of peace and quiet, where I ate more food. I incorporated berries and stuff into my diet. So I was very clean. I was seasonal veg, keeping strict calories. And then I upped my calorie intake, and then I got fat. I actually put on 2 stone of weight. So UK stone, whatever. And then everyone said, you look well, you look healthier now. And I was like, no, but I'm overweight. But it was actually around that point where I went to there's a Children with Cancer conference in London that they invited me to do a speech at because they wanted to inspire people. Um, and I did the speech. Unfortunately, I met a guy called Misha Sakharov. He was really, really like desperate to meet me because he's like, this guy's done amazing things. What he does is he works with brain tumor patients. His friend was diagnosed at some point. And he said, okay, well, I've got to change my whole outlook on this thing and try and help it. So basically, he teaches carnivore, he teaches buteyko breathing. And then I'm actually part of his course now. I teach people to let go of the ego and the attachment to the idea that they could die. But yeah, I met him at the conference and he said, if you ever have a problem, just give me a call. So I got back home after that, and in October I got the results of my scan. And the results were reoccurrence, it's 4 centimeters. What do you want to do? You're going to do chemo, radiotherapy? And I said, no, well, actually, I've got a friend who's going to help me with his zero carb, teaching me breathing, all these methods that are going to hack my biome. So I started to do that. And then as soon as I started, I went cold turkey keto. I just went bye-bye ketogenic diet. So I went full on zero carb, 1 meal a day, high fats, moderate protein.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, all my scans have been stable, and like they've actually stayed stable. Whereas before ketogenic, because of the carb intake, I was actually just growing,
yeah,
insignificantly, but it was still causing an impact. Now I'm at a point where I can control my epilepsy to an extent.
Right. And I think you brought up death, so let's go there for a minute.
Yeah.
Death is a part of life. My dad used to always say to me, as soon as you're born, you're dying. Like, we are actively dying no matter what we do about it. It's a guarantee. And we don't even think about the immediacy of it unless something happens to our health or something like that. But the truth is, we're talking right now, and at the end of the day, one of us could be gone. We don't know. And so what I really heard you say is that you decided how you want to live. You were really, it wasn't the death. You weren't afraid of the death.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you wanted to pack as much living into life as you could.
Mm.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd like to say that I practiced while I was preaching, but I was quite depressed for a while. I had to work through my emotions. That's why I started to write my blog, Pablo's Journey Through a Brain Sheet. Because when I was typing, I was like, this is clever, because it is my journey through a brain tumor. It's how I can overcome this. And fortunately, it's provided hope for thousands across the country and across the world. That wasn't the expectation for me. I was just writing to get rid of all my baggage. I was like, if people can hear this and understand this and show me some love, that actually encourages me to carry on. So I get rid of all my shit, just put it on the internet. Unfortunately, I felt something removed from me every time I did that. I felt a lot better. And then I just kept on surviving and living. And I was like, this is magnificent. How am I doing this? And I was like, it's because I'm actually accepting what's happening in the moment. So as soon as I got told, the specific moment when I was told I was going to die by the surgeon who did my biopsy, I wrote a blog about it, and reading back on it, I was like, how did I come to the conclusion to live better from a moment of death? But in the moment, I don't know, you've never been told you're going to die, so you might not understand this, but I was sad. I went, oh, fuck my life. I went, oh, fuck it. So I got really angry. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly I'm looking around at my mum and my partner, and they're both shocked. And I kind of I felt immense love for them. And I was like, this makes sense. So this is meant to happen to me. I'm meant to make a choice right now. And I made this choice just from the freedom of, from fear, I guess, but it spurred me on to life again. And I thought, I can live. I'm going to live. I will live. And I'm going to love my life. And that's why I told myself, I said, this reinforced my will to live through death, and then I can survive.
I'm going to love my life. You made a choice. Love is an action, isn't it? It's a choice. It doesn't just happen, and it's not a feeling. You were at the end of the road. You were at the last house on the block, and a decision needed to be made. And we don't have to go there to make that decision, do we?
No.
I mean, if I could tell anyone anything, it would be like make that decision on a regular basis and make that decision stick. We need that in this world right now. And I'm telling you that this is just fantastic. And I so appreciate you, sharing your story and doing these things that you're doing. And I think carnivore is a very freeing way to live, and I actually feel my best when I'm 100% carnivore. I do. I
Yeah,
have steady energy. My autoimmune symptoms are very low. I feel a sense of power and energy that I can't really describe because there's not a lot of noise. I think you said before we got on the air, no cravings. You don't
yeah,
crave stuff, and I mean anything. You don't crave something different, something more. There's a sense of contentment about feeding your brain right. I think is
yeah.
a huge part of it.
Well, I've noticed a lot when I say something like on the internet about the addiction of carbs or the addiction of something, and just letting it go, or coming to terms with the fact that you are addicted. People get offended, and then they don't realize that the offensive part of it is because their ego is saying they're right, but I don't want to listen.
Yeah.
So the offense comes from that place, and it's sad to see, but you can't tell anyone to change themselves. They've got to do it because of some strong emotion. And many people in this world, they've got the blinkers on, so they're not looking straight. They're just looking straight ahead. They're not looking side to side. Okay, there's another option over there or over there. I can actually make a choice.
And I think
I'm obese because it's a family trait, it's genetic. That's not the truth. The truth is your family, you've eaten like this, you've copied what they do, you've taken it into your own life when you're away from them, and yet you continue. See, I've got all these things in my past to draw upon. My father, he was never around. He left when I was about 2 years old. Didn't really know him. He lived in a different town, way up country. But from the stories I heard from mom, he was addicted to drinking. He smoked cannabis, and I actually portrayed him for most of my life, even though I didn't know it. I was playing out this story of how my father acted. And actually, when I went up to stay with him a few times, I smoked weed and got drunk with him, and he actually ended up borrowing money off me to buy weed. And these things, this interaction. But I learned that I didn't want to be like him. I realized that at one point, like I said, when I quit smoking, that was when I realized I was literally playing out his life.
mhm.
I was enacting my dad, trying to fit in somehow with that idea. It's like I'm not my dad, I'm me.
Right. And
Or I am not. I'm actually this guy without ego. I'm going to let go of the ego, and I'm just going to
yes,
say I'm no one. I'm nothing. I can start fresh
exactly.
from this moment.
I love that because, actually this morning I had a group for our business, SugarX Global, and I brought up the 4 agreements. And I said, the most important agreement to me in that book is to never be offended, never take offense at anything. And that truly is ego,
Yeah,
which I like the acronym easing God out. Whatever you think God is, to me, God is loving and greater than myself. And I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live in a space where I bristle every time someone says something to me. I don't want to live in a space that doesn't allow you to be fully who you are.
yeah,
I don't want to look away from people's pain or judge their pain.
yeah,
That's not the intimacy that I want in my life. And that offensiveness and that, oh, how dare she, how dare he, I can't believe he spoke like that,
yeah,
that kind of thing, it separates us one from another, and it really separates us from the life force, the intimacy of living. And I think that what you're doing is living a very intimate and full life, like you've opened up instead of
yeah,
closing down, and you're receptive to experiences. And
yeah,
so you have a new baby on the way, and you have a family, and you have hope, and you're
yeah,
taking it minute by minute and day by day and helping others. What a miracle.
yeah. Well, I wrote something on Twitter the other day, which no one really liked because it doesn't fit into the opinion of Twitter. You got to have a strong opinion for it to get heard anywhere on the internet. But it's basically we see people as get bad or good. But in fact, we are We are the innocence that we are born into. What happens is we get influenced by the people around us who influence that. So like our parents, our friends, their friends, anyone we see as doing something, and we go, oh, I want to do that. I want to be like that. But we are still, in essence, this innocence of birth. A baby comes out, they are pure innocence. They do not have ego, no attachment. They cry, they shit, they laugh, they gurgle, but they don't think about why they're doing it. We seem to get attached to this idea that we are doing something for a reason, yet we somehow do not know what that reason is. I work a steady job because it's what I must do. I shoot a load of people because I've got a gun and because I'm unhappy with my life. That person is not inherently bad. The problem is they were at some point hurt in their life, abused, mistreated, and that thing has just eaten away at their soul. So they come out and they do this bad thing. I mean, it is bad. Yes, we see it as bad. It's the wrong thing to do. Taking life is wrong. But it comes from a place of innocence still. They were hurt. Not many people can understand this concept that we're actually just innocent. And good and bad is just an idea.
About children, you have a child, you have one on the way. They don't care where they're at. They will express their awe and wonder about life. Butterfly, and it's like this big thing to them, and we start quieting them down as a society. Shh, you're being too loud, you're being too joyful, you're too much, right? And you talked about vibrancy or being vibrant, living a vibrant life. And to me, like, my sponsor in my 12-step fellowship, she always tells me, don't let anyone dim your light, because I give people permission. It's my choice whether I'm going to be a bright light in this world or not. And today I choose, if my light bothers you, I'm sorry, I'm still going to shine. And you know what the thing is? Some people want to be around your light. They need that light. Like those broken people need your light. They need you to look at them and see who they are and see their pain and get some acknowledgement, And I really believe that that's the most healing thing, is that unconditional, radical acceptance of pain shared is pain lessened. That's what you learned when you put your story out there.
So when I met Misha, he basically, there are people coming onto his program. It's like a 6-month program where he tries to teach people the ways to manage their lives themselves and their cancer themselves. But part of it is this radical acceptance or mental resilience, these facets that people forget matter when it comes to a cancer diagnosis. Because they are suffering, even though they don't show it. They don't show it. They will put on a strong face because they don't want anyone else to suffer like they're suffering. I think that's the saddest thing. Like for me, the radical acceptance just kind of happened because I was aware. I was always brought up with these teachings that said, love yourself and love another. So he asked me to help people that were joining the course that didn't have a reason. They were just like, I want to do something, but I don't know why. I don't understand why. I'm deeply afraid still. And I would try and teach them this presence, the awareness of presence. So being aware of every moment rather than looking to the past or the future. Because those moments don't matter, they're gone and they're coming. So when it comes, you'll be there and it'll still be the present. So what's the point in dwelling? So, that's how I teach people. But yeah, from the onset, I've been doing this for about 2 years now. And the answer that I give people is always the same. It's be aware of the moment. So every time you feel fear arising, don't see it as a problem. Because when you attach the problem, it goes back to past again, my experience.
And it's just...
You become present, and then there's the choice. The moment of choice will come. You'll be able to choose what you want to do through not fear, but awareness instead.
Well, and I think what you're saying too is like fear just is. It isn't good or bad. It's just a part of the human experience. And I agree, like we have to, when I try to push an emotion away or a fear away, it only makes me hang on tighter to it. It only
come back to you again and again until you let.
Because I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I'm guilty because I should be brave. I should be this and I should be that. instead of accepting my human condition that I'm going to feel fear. I'm going to feel a whole range of emotions. And to me, emotions are visitors, feelings are visitors. They don't stay for long, you know?
Yeah.
And I can say, oh, hi, fear, you know, what's going on today? Is this fear
Yeah.
real? Because sometimes fear can be false evidence appearing real because I'm bringing my yesterdays into today, or I'm looking at my tomorrows. And so I think you're 100% right about staying completely present as you can. What are some practices that you got into to just help yourself progress? Because I'm sure it didn't come naturally at first.
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember because it kind of clicked. It was just it's my past experiences of what taught me this idea of presence. Because let me think of it this way. My earliest memory is when I was my mum. Well, I don't remember getting there, but I remember getting out of the car when we moved to a new place. I was about 2, 3 years old, same age as my daughter is going to be, and I just remember not liking the idea at all. And that's when my first ego attachment came in. But I remember it so vividly that I was watching myself become attached to a feeling. But I remember it so vividly, and I don't know if it makes sense, but it's basically my memory of that ego attachment is what helps me to remember to not attach to my ego. So I get feelings of death, the fear of death arising, and I get it spontaneously throughout. Like it might not happen for weeks on end, but suddenly it's there. But what if this happens and I don't get to see my baby grow up? Then I just drop it. I go, nah, it's okay. It's okay. Because if I die, they're not going to suffer. I'm not going to suffer. I'm not going to be around to suffer, to watch them suffering. They're going to have to deal with it by themselves. And if I can teach her ways that she can deal with her suffering now, then her life is going to be better for it.
Yes.
And even my story, the fact that I've actually managed to overcome the adversity of cancer, which I see as a ridiculous sentiment. But people look at me and they say, "Oh, you're amazing," and I'm like, "I'm just me trying to live." So I'm sharing
Right.
because
I think life is amazing. Life finds a way. People are resilient. I think what we find out as humans is that we are overcomers. We are thrivers in the face of horrible adversity. You know, I just saw a lady on Instagram yesterday, and she was on Reels, and she was a Muslim woman who had probably been burnt by her brother, her husband, her, whoever. Somebody decided it was a good idea to pour gasoline on her and scar her for life. And she had one milky eye, and she had lipstick on her complete scar tissue, and there was music playing, and she was winking and kissing at the camera. And I thought, you know what, you're flipping beautiful. Your spirit, like your shell is just a shell, and they could take that away from her, but they weren't going to take away her essence. And I think that if people lived their essence, nobody would care if you had stretch marks, if you had saggy skin, how old you were, how young you were. We would just be thriving and be at our optimal human potential.
We're called human beings, but we don't do much being. We do a lot of doing.
Yes, we do.
When we're being is this idea of awareness, isn't it? It's all the gurus in the world, like Jesus. Their teachings was to just be, experience. Use that instinct of yours, because the instinct is the base instinct. It's the base of your being.
Yes.
The fight or flight. We say, like when you look at a dog, they're just instincts. They're not big. They want to please you because they've been trained to. But at their core, they're just an instinctual being. But what they're doing is acting out of instinct.
Right. And I think we don't trust some of our greater instincts, because we definitely have instincts that have gone astray because of the consumerism environment that we live in. We need more, different, better. We have to have X, Y, and Z before we feel content. And the be here now, the be a human being and not a human doing, calls us to be content now in this moment, because we understand that's all there is. We started this interview, 38 minutes ago. That's gone. It's already gone. We can't undo it. We can't rewind it. We can't relive it. And so what we do now, that becomes our memories, that becomes our life, that becomes our story. And I think we forget, and we get almost like numb to the fact that we actually have some agency and some choice in how
Yeah.
what we decide to feel. Like you said, you basically choose to love life and love
Yeah.
living, and that's a huge thing. Love is a huge action packed word.
It's,
It's full
it's
of.
self-acceptance and it's acceptance of others' self. So, when I learned to love myself again, that's when I found love in my life. And that's the biggest lesson I learned, was that if I can change something, if I make a choice and think of the solution rather than the problem, I can find what I need just by making that choice. I made the choice recently to try and start this business of mine, which is to help people find their resilience, their strength for themselves. I just offer them advice and they will find their answer. In doing so, like, I had a really crappy computer, and right now I'm on a brand new computer because my grandparents-in-law, they just said, we've got a grand, we're pensioners, we don't go out, we don't party, we don't drink, we've saved money, and you can have £1,000. Here you go, here's a computer. And I was just like, I called them up to ask them if they could donate £100, and they donated a grand. And I was like, I was not expecting this. But they're like, if you want to support yourself, we can support you because we're 82 years old. Our time is not going to be long here, and we just want to help. My partner would not have asked because she's afraid that they would say no, or they would think her a bad person for asking. But I'm under no such, like, I've got no inhibitions about this. I will ask. If they say no, I will be happy.
I agree. I think open mouths get fed. And I think people that ask and are fearless about asking have already accepted no for an answer.
Yeah.
No is an okay answer. It's an okay answer. Nobody has to say yes to me, but they might say yes to me. And so tell us about Patreon and how people can connect with
I've got two things going on now. It's Indiegogo because I'm writing this book. I'm writing a book about I told you part of the story, all right? But it's a story that's ongoing. But the message is that everybody can make a choice, even if they do standard of care, right? That doesn't bother me. Whatever they do is fine, but as long as they're finding their best interest, because the doctor will only tell you part of the story. You've got to look for the rest yourself, and it's out there. I made these choices, and I'm quite miraculous. People say you're lucky. You're very lucky to be alive. And everyone tells me in my family, you're not lucky. You made a fucking choice, man. You did this by yourself. You made this choice. And every time you make this choice, it gave you longevity, which is what you said I'm going to do. I'm going to live for a long time. And the more I do that, I'm going to write this book, and I've got an Indiegogo, which I'm just trying to raise a little bit of funds to support my family, because unfortunately my disability benefits have stopped because there's a certain legislation, or so there's basically a category you got to fit into. So every 3 years you get reviewed. I've had it for 6 years, but I'm not doing chemo, I'm not doing radiotherapy, so therefore they can't just sign off and go straight to disguised disability, because that would be a case for me doing that, because I'd have side effects, symptoms, I need the money.
And you have no fear about this, I'm sure.
No.
And
but they basically said, we can't give you the money, you have to do the normal application, and it might take 4 months. So I'm without the money I had for 6 years for 4 months when I'm about to have a child. I'm like, I've got to do something for myself. So I'm raising a bit of money to support me whilst I write my book, to support my family, so I can get this book out quickly, spread the word, actually inspire hope. So I've got the Indiegogo. I don't have a link, but I'll share it to you later.
Okay, and you know what? When you're done writing the book, let's meet again. I actually just wrote a book. It's called An Altered Spirit, and it's about Scrooge from A Christmas Carol and the 12 Steps. So, I mean, it seems we have a great deal in common, and I definitely feel a huge connection with energy with you. And I'm tearing up right now with tears of joy for your life and your journey, and how each person is like a pebble thrown into the water, and we don't know what those ripples are going to do. And when we live intentionally with generating joy, generating love, choosing to do that,
Yeah.
It makes a difference in the world. It makes a huge difference in the world. I
Yeah.
really truly believe in the old motto, each one teach one. And I just
Yeah.
thank you so much for embracing your journey and not shying away from your feelings and your honesty about
Yeah.
the early struggle and fear and your radical acceptance, because I really think it is the solution. Our perception is everything.
Yeah.
What we think is who we are. It's how we
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. Exactly it. That's exactly how I've lived my life. Well, most of my life, every step, every mistake I've made has been a lesson learned. So it brought me to this point where all my lessons were learned, all my negative lessons was like just positives. Now, even though I'm dying, technically I've been told I'm dying, but I'm not dying, am I? I'm
No,
still very much alive and healthy.
you're too busy living to be concerned
Yeah, yeah.
about it. So
But I'm okay if I die now. I don't care if I die. There's no attachment to this body anymore. It's more like I've done what I can and I know I've left a good legacy for people to understand. My partner, she may suffer, but she knows how I lived. Now give her hope for the future. She can live with that. So
I agree.
actually, I couldn't care less. When I die, that's it. I don't know what happens. No one knows what happens.
Right.
I
And
don't
you
know.
and you used to be, smoking pot, drinking and smoking cigarettes and, being self-centered and whatever.
Yeah,
And you could be with your partner now, ignoring your 2-year-old, kicking the
yeah,
dog, see ya, I have better
yeah,
things to do than hang out with my family. Instead, you're
yeah.
connected and you're living a
Yeah,
loving,
it's
caring
a
life.
brilliant, it's a joyful experience because, like, my daughter, even though she's sometimes a pain to be around, she's always so heartfelt. I mean, she's joy in action, and I can't I can't help but smile when she does something silly, something funny, something that I would do when I was a kid. And I'm like, that's me in a nutshell. But you're better. You're like another version of me. You're my legacy.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
something I
thank
have
you.
made somehow miraculously in my wife. And stuff. There's this beauty and joy that reminds me to be a kid every once in a while.
I think it is important. I do these goofy little dances on Instagram and I don't care. I'm 55 years old. What do I have to lose? What do I care if you're like, what is she doing? Who does she think she is? What do I care? Some people are like, you make my day. I look forward to seeing your videos. They want permission to be silly and to
Yeah,
to have some joy. I don't care. I don't care what someone else thinks about me. I'm going to do me regardless of someone else's opinion. And that's like, it's a huge part of freedom, and,
yeah,
and I can accept, hey, that's fine. I'm not your cup of tea. That's cool. I don't
yeah.
have to be everybody's cup of tea. It's that,
Yeah.
it's that letting go. It's that lack of attachment.
That's life. Life. There's opinions. There's disputes. There's always something wrong or right, but it doesn't matter. You do what you do, and you live with it because it's you. It's not someone else.
Exactly. There's a certain freedom of authenticity when you have a health crisis inform you, and I think hopefully like you'll be able to teach your daughter more. I've been able to teach
She
my youngest daughter.
saying that she when she sees a chunk of meat, say we have like lamb cutlets. She'll always take my lamb cutlets from me. And she's got a different meal. She'll take the lamb cutlets and she'll go for the fat first. She's like, the fat is the good bit. Gotta have the fat. And at Christmas last year, the turkey came out of the oven and she was ripping the skin off of her teeth, just going. She had these big bit of skin just like dangling from her mouth, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, it's too cute to say anything." She knows what's good for her.
Yes,
She's learned from us.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for having me.